Good evening, friends. Week 17. The championship is here. Dan doesn't care for 2 weeks now. I don't care for the first week ever. Why are we even doing this show? But I guess, Dan, if there is one shining light to take away from the Maslin Football League show 2023 season, is that our three biggest fans in the league, Darren, Taylor, and Horvath, the people who are ride or die with us on these shows, had the best record and are facing each other in the championship. So clearly, we own parts of these championship runs, correct?
Well, first of all, I think our biggest fan isn't even in our league, so
that's fair. Though he seems quite jaded. We haven't seen him in a while, so rightfully so. I fucked him over last year.
Yeah, you did.
But it happens. So. But hey, I was pretty excited that I'm like, Taylor and Horvath, almost always in the comments. Taylor and Horvath, now in the championship. So I was going to take a little ownership in that. But clearly that's not the
way we're having a hard time accepting the fact that you're not in the championship.
Oh, I'm not coping well. Not coping well at all. And I just have this feeling Christian McCaffrey is going to go bananas this week. And then I'm going to be able to look and see like if he had done that last week and just all the terrible things that.
Oh, yeah. Your team is going to be the high score this week. I'm calling it. The Bengals defense is god awful, and the Chiefs should have that get right game this week.
I would throw out. They've needed a get right game for a while. I will throw out for those in the bottom bracket, a high score this week does get you an extra point of luck. Terry stole that from you last week because he was a former playoff team who had to go up and put up a high score to land 5th place. Terry regretting all life decisions right now because he would have easily waltzed into the championship if he had simply made up that 1 point the week before. So I feel for Terry. I probably should have sent him a text, but Terry claims the high score, which means nobody earned any extra luck that way. However, there was extra luck earned. If I have it in my notes, I feel like I did.
Kenny got his second win.
Did he?
I think he won the first week and the second week, didn't he?
No, because the people who won the first week and the second week are in the championship right now. Hold on, I have it.
Okay.
The two guys in the championship, Stevie and Rob P, both picked up a luck, and then there's still more luck to be won this week. So let's get into it. I'm going to break down. We have Terry takes 5th place is the first of my notes. So Terry and JR have literally nothing going on this week. There are 5 matchups that aren't the championship. Mott's versus Phil with literally nothing on the line. Kenny versus you. The winner of that matchup gets 1 luck. Greg versus Eric. The winner of that matchup gets 1 luck. And then Stevie versus Rob P. The winner of that matchup gets another point of luck for winning that bracket. Plus, they get $25 of their buy-in back. Then we have the 3rd place game and the championship. Dan, I kind of broke down the championship in like position by position. So we'll talk a lot about that. So let's just get through the other crap right now. I don't even think Mott's is going to start a lineup. So for Mott's versus Phil, I picked Phil.
Yeah, I picked Phil. Rob's team, I mean, it's been rough the past couple of weeks. He had a nice run at the end of the season there, but Phil's looking much better.
I have to beat you by 4 this week. So I'll do my announcements first, or maybe I should make you announce first. But I went 3-3 last week. You went 3-3 last week. You have 67 wins. I have 63 wins. You versus Kenny. I have you pulling this one out.
Yeah. I think my team is rolling right now versus Kenny's. Unfortunately, too little, too late. Injuries still. I'm disappointed to see Keenan Allen out again, but.
Yeah, weird end of the season. Josh Palmer out in that game, too. I don't think it's going to affect anybody in the championship. Greg versus Eric. I waffled on this one. I initially had Greg winning it, but when I went back and looked, Eric and his having fun setting lineups is working out pretty well, and I actually have Eric winning this one and taking another point of luck.
I'm going to go with Greg.
Okay. And then in the champion of the losers bracket, we have Stevie versus Rob P, the newcomer Rob P. Stevie, both equally disappointing seasons, I think, where they both looked really good for a little while there, or at least Rob P looked good in my mind, and it just didn't shake out very well. Winner of this one gets a luck, and as I mentioned, $25 of their buy-in back. Dan, I think Stevie pulls it out and claims this would be, I believe, his second losers bracket championship in 3 years.
Steve, you're the champion of the losers, buddy. Love you.
There you go. Third place game, me versus Darren. The only extra note I added to this game is it will be my third consecutive season at third place if I do win. The winner gets the 11th pick. The loser gets the 12th pick. I give the better pick so that there's always a reason to be playing. And then $10 extra. So the winner gets $60. The loser gets their $50 buy-in back. Pretty close matchup the way I shake it out, but I have myself winning this one.
I think your team gets the high score of the week. You should have a monster week. Darren's team has been progressively falling off as the season's gone on. I don't expect that to change.
There you go. It's been a rough end of the season. So championship matchup, Dan. I went through and like I said, and I actually have it ready to be queued up here. Yeah, let's leave it up like that. So I went through and did it position by position, and I figure since we're only going to really talk about one matchup, let's talk about it position by position. So I'll kick it to you and get your opinion and then give my opinion afterward. So first, we're looking at the quarterbacks. Josh Allen at home against the New England Patriots. Justin Fields at home against the Atlanta Falcons. Do you see an advantage here, Dan?
No, I think it's pretty much a push. Josh Allen typically does have one bad game against New England every year. We talked about that earlier in the year. It wasn't awful either. I believe his first game against New England. He had some turnovers, but that's what Josh Allen has done all year. It's at home.
20 fantasy points he had in that matchup.
I think there were some late touchdowns because I think early in the game he was playing rough. But I look at it as pretty even.
I gave Horvath just a slight advantage just because there's also rumors DJ Moore may not play this week. And I think Darnell Mooney just went questionable today.
Mooney's out.
Oh, Mooney's even out now. So
yeah.
And then Cole Kmet took a pretty big injury towards the end of that game and missed the second half of that game after starting off like a monster. There's a chance Justin Fields has no weapons. Now he always has his legs, which are weapons, but I gave Horvath just the slightest of advantage at quarterback.
Did you just use the words Cole Kmet and monster in the same sentence?
I did. I can't. Hey, Cole Kmet is turning a page for me. I have been shitting on this guy for 3 years. We could do an entire episode. Starting to watch him more and more. And I'll be honest, he is developing into a nice tight end and a viable fantasy asset as long as this is the offense they're going to run.
So I know this is a sidebar, but next season, Cole Kmet is available at around you value him. Will you actually take him?
No, I'll hopefully have Travis Kelce in Travis Kelce form.
I'm not talking about our league. I'm just talking about in the league. Just in an average league.
It's going to be a big debate for me this offseason whether I am going to be a guy next season who's going to overpay for Sam Laporta, Trey McBride. But let's assume I have punted on the tight end position and we are sitting in double-digit rounds, round 10. Yes, I would draft Cole Kmet next season.
Because Fields won't be the quarterback there next year. It's going to be Williams, from the rookie from USC.
Well, it's a question of, is anybody else getting replaced? Is it still going to be Getsy there? Because I think Williams probably fits the system Getsy wants to run a little bit better than what Justin Fields does. And so it's going to be interesting to see who else is retained because I didn't think Getsy was going to be good for Kmet, and very clearly I was wrong about that. So,
all right, sorry to go off on the sidebar, but
Oh, that's fine. What else are we going to talk about this show? I have to keep occasionally clicking back over to the chat just to see if any of these assholes actually show up tonight or if we're just talking to ourselves. We'll look at these running backs as kind of a grouping. It's going to be more important to look at the wide receivers as a grouping because Taylor has his best wide receiver in his flex, but we'll talk about that. So Isaiah Pacheco versus Kieran Williams, Bijan Robinson versus Najee Harris. So when I looked at these, Dan, I don't even remember at this point. I got to find my notes. Well, I think Kieran Williams is a big advantage, but then I think Bijan Robinson is a big advantage. So I think the grouping all in all cancels each other out at this point.
So here's how I looked at it. I Williams and Robinson to me cancel each other out, but I look at it as Pacheco an advantage over Harris.
Okay.
I don't look at Harris's one good week against a crappy Bengals defense last week as him becoming the Harris he's supposed to be.
Seattle is also bad against the run because I thought something similar. Now, the issue is this is also Seattle in Seattle, and they tend to play a little bit differently.
I still give advantage to Pacheco over Harris.
And then did Pacheco play last week? Is he back to healthy?
So he started the game, then he got a concussion. He's in the protocol.
Okay.
He practiced today though, and there's
Okay.
some belief that he's going to play if he's out of protocol tomorrow.
All right. So that's one to keep an eye on there. And then let's doom scroll a little bit for Horvath. Okay, he has Tony Pollard. So let's assume he has to pivot to Tony Pollard. Does Tony Pollard give that advantage over Najee Harris still?
Dallas is going. Well, here's the thing: he has to make that decision tomorrow. Dallas plays Saturday.
Oh, well, he should also know tomorrow pretty early if Pacheco clears protocol. So,
but it's one of those things. Like, let's say they never come out and say anything.
Yeah, that makes it rough because he has nobody else. He would have to go dumpster diving for that position if Pacheco ends up being out. So that's an interesting one. So let's put it on the spot, Dan. This is what we're here. This is your squad in the championship. I'll tell you right now, I'm scared of questionable tags. I'm scared of concussion protocol. I would be starting Tony Pollard in this situation.
Who's he having as flex?
Wide receiver, Calvin Ridley.
Now Trevor Lawrence is out.
Trevor Lawrence is out. I was going to bring up, I actually don't like Calvin Ridley this week. And was going to bring up Tony Pollard, but was also going to bring up Noah Brown with the way CJ Stroud tends to sling it all over the field, and Stroud should be back this week.
That's a tough call, man. I'd have to look at the information that comes out tomorrow on Pacheco.
Yeah, I
can't make that decision right now. That's just enough information. Yeah.
Horvath, I hope you have zero plans because you need to be on Kansas City Twitter all day long. Now, Dan, I do want to kind of talk about the wide receivers as a grouping because Taylor has Jamar Chase in his flex. So let's start with the simplest question. You as a Bengals fan, should Taylor expect to have Jamar Chase active tomorrow?
So Jamar practiced today. I didn't catch if it was a full or limited practice, but I know he did practice. I think he practiced a little bit yesterday too. There's two different thoughts here from me. Jamar Chase has said 1,000 times, if he's not 100%, he doesn't want to play.
Okay.
And that's why he was adamant Joe Burrow should not have been playing the first 4 weeks of this season. He said this. He's like, nobody should be playing if you're not 100%. He is not going to be 100%. But the fact that it's a must-win game against a big team like Kansas City, he spent a lot of time talking a lot of junk this week.
Yeah, I heard it while we were playing Warzone together.
about Chiefs secondary. So I don't. If he plays, I'm not expecting a big game out of him. But it is Jamar Chase, and he could always have that 30-point game. So if he's playing, I think you have to play him.
So if you name these guys by name, I'm going to flip the way these names should go. You have Justin Jefferson versus Jamar Chase. You have CeeDee Lamb versus Cooper Kupp. And then you have Nico Collins versus Calvin Ridley. When I looked this all over, Justin Jefferson gets the slight edge to me because just because of the health, where we don't know what's going on with Jamar Chase. And then again, I'm going to give a slight edge to CeeDee Lamb just because we've seen more out of CeeDee Lamb than we have. But then when it comes to Calvin Ridley versus Nico Collins, I really like the fact that CJ Stroud is back this week. And I really like the fact that the Texans are technically still playing for a playoff spot and possibly even their division. So that was a big edge to Taylor for me, which then brings me to the same exact spot we've been in, Dan. I think this cancels everything out again. And so I think the receivers cancel out on the back of Nico Collins being a target hog, unless Jamar Chase is out. And then that's going to flip it to Horvath.
I'm all for Horvath either way, whether Chase plays or not. I think CeeDee Lamb at home, Cowboys at home are monsters going against that Detroit defense. That could be a 49-45 game.
Yeah.
So I expect CeeDee Lamb to have a monster game.
I mean, that's not to say Cooper Kupp couldn't also put up a monster game against the Giants if the weather permits, and that's the game. That's the game script. You just need the Giants to keep that game somewhat competitive. So that's just kind of how I looked at it, where I gave slight edges, but I definitely see where you're coming from. If Taylor loses Chase, he does have a great pivot in Mike Evans. However, I actually did some digging into Mike Evans for my Wednesday show this week, Dan. And there's this narrative that Mike Evans has one good game and one bad game against the Saints. That is simply not true. My man is mediocre as fuck against the Saints. Like every single time he plays them, it's a 10-point game or he gets kicked out before he scores any points. Are you worried enough about Mike Evans that you would consider Tyler Boyd, or would you pivot to Evans if there's no Jamar Chase?
Let me say this. I was shocked that he didn't have Mike Evans in his starting lineup when I checked his stuff. Shocked. Mike Evans is having a great year. I mean, you can't turn on a football show without hearing about how Baker Mayfield has resurrected his career. But as someone who has lived through Tom Brady last year in the Tampa Bay offense, I know that Mike Evans doesn't play well against the Saints.
Yeah.
So he's not someone I count on in those games. So I understand why he's doing it. I was just shocked that he didn't have him in there because he's just had such a good year.
But back to my question, would you pivot to Boyd over Evans with that history, or are you banking on Mike Evans coming alive?
Oh, if it's Boyd versus Evans, I'd probably go Evans.
Yeah, I know you haven't been big on Boyd in the filling in for Jamar Chase thing. Taylor points out that Evans has only put up 20 against the Saints in his career one time. I think that was week 1 of 2018. That's as far back as I went when I was researching this. Mike Evans has one good game, one bad game narrative that just does not appear to be true. And then that brings us to the tight ends, Dan. So last week, I thought Hunter Henry was going to be the nail in my coffin. Turns out he doesn't even make it to the game. Horvath doesn't need him, and Dalton Schultz has a damn near good enough game. David Njoku goes off on Thursday night. That fumble loss hurts him a little bit because we penalize turnovers. Are you, if you're Taylor, disappointed in this final 12 points from David Njoku, considering I'm pretty sure he had, if I'm not wrong, 13 points, but maybe 10 or 11 points at halftime of that game and then finishes with 12 points? Obviously, this is a big thing, and I think Taylor wins this position regardless. Buffalo plays very tough against the tight end. And then I can't remember who Houston plays. Tennessee is so-so against the tight end. Personally, I would be starting Schultz in this matchup over Henry. I'm not going to buy into Hunter Henry. He was a great matchup last week. He didn't even get a chance to play last week. They barely used Mike Gesicki last week. I'm not buying into Hunter Henry again this week. However, my real question to you is, on top of who do you give the advantage to? If you're Taylor, are you disappointed by David Njoku?
I would definitely be disappointed. And Njoku's Taylor, he has carried Taylor's team for the past few weeks.
Oh, 100%. Since Flacco took over, and actually the week before that, Taylor says he is disappointed.
Yeah, I would be disappointed, especially like you said, it's a monster start to the game. But again, the game script of the Jets just not keeping the game ultra close, I think, hurt him. The fumble obviously hurt him. Going into the game, I would have gave an advantage to Njoku at this, before we saw what he already did on Thursday night. But now that I already know he only got 12 points, I'm not necessarily calling that an advantage. I think Henry could put up 10, and it is a 2-point advantage, but that's not something I would say that's a game decider.
See, I don't see Henry putting that up. Now, Schultz is interesting because Schultz, I believe, put up 10 last week for Horvath.
Click on Henry's last couple weeks. Let's see what he's done lately.
So Schultz put up 11 for Horvath last week, and then Henry before the injury, he had scored those touchdowns those 2 games before the injury. So I know he had 2 good games before that. 16 and 17 before the injury, but unfortunately 0, 2, 4, 11, 4, 3. Like, he's been all over the place. But obviously 3 touchdowns in 2 games make him look really, really good over those last 2 games.
Well, the other thing was the quarterback change.
Well,
was
that when Zappe took over? I don't remember
games.
Okay, so maybe it's just Bailey Zappi and Hunter Henry, and Taylor's actually screwed at tight end. I just don't see it happening in this one. So, and so then Dan, that brings us to the final segment of this matchup: the defense and the special teams. I don't know if you have any analysis you want to give on any of this. Both kickers are outside. Both could be dealing with wind, but nothing too bad, though the wind in Chicago is always terrible. Nick Bosa is a guy you're going for sacks. TJ Edwards is a guy who's going for tackles. So you have 2 different philosophies that you're looking at here. And then you have the Raiders defense that has been surging just absolutely surging since Alec Pierce took over. 15, 38, and 27 in their last 3 matchups. And those are games against Minnesota and Kansas City, who had better-ish offenses. But Cleveland comes out hot, scores a touchdown last night, and already drops 20 for Taylor. So the Raiders need to have a good game to keep Horvath involved in this one. So looking at these, Dan, is anything standing out with you in these last 3 positions?
Can you scroll down on the screen?
Yeah. Like to the benches?
No, just the defensive kicker.
Oh, I'm on the defense and kicker. Is it not scrolling for you?
No, man. You're on. I don't see anything below IDP.
Interesting. I'm looking at the screen right now. It says Nick Bosa.
Yeah, I got the IDPs there. I was looking to see who the Raiders were going against, but it's fine. I can look it up on my phone.
It's on the screen. They're playing Indy.
Dude, it's not on my screen. I'm telling you.
Taylor, can you see who the defenses are playing? Because it's on my screen. That's super weird.
I mean, I can take a picture of it and send it to you if you want, but it's not there. I got Henry, Ridley, and Bosa on my screen.
Why is yours not scrolling? It is definitely Bosa, McPherson, and Santos on my screen. I'm interested to see what it looks like when I go back and watch this on YouTube later. All right. Raiders are on the road against Indianapolis.
Yeah. All right. So I love Bosa going against Washington. Washington just switched their quarterback. I don't know who's playing quarterback for them.
Jacoby Brissett.
But coming in, Brissett has a tendency to kind of take off running when things aren't there. And I think that opens up the opportunity for Bosa to get more sacks if he's taking his eyes off the receivers and trying to make plays on his own.
Yeah.
Washington's not a great team, so.
That's for sure.
I mean, agree, the Raiders defense has been hot, but the Colts aren't a terrible offense, especially if Pittman comes back and plays. It's really, you're going to rely on the quarterback to make a few mistakes there. It just moved now, finally, just so you know.
I was going to say, everybody else is seeing the right thing, but Dan's just finally moved. How weird.
So, and the kickers is kind of a push. I worry about McPherson a little bit. It depends on if the Bengals come out and lay an egg again this week.
Yeah. You got a lot to worry about if the Bengals come out and lay another egg this week.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. If the Bengals come out and lay an egg and he plays Chase, it hurts him too.
Well, that's absolutely fair. And it hurts a lot more to lose your wide receiver 1 than it does to lose your kicker. So that is the matchup, Dan. Right now, Sleeper has it as Taylor projected to win by 8 points. At one point last night, that was as high as 21 points. It was 132 to 111, and it dipped all the way back down to 119 for Taylor, 111. Taylor has 2 guys in the book. So, Dan, who will be the 2023 champion?
Mr. Horvath, I think, I hope, and I pray will be the champion.
You're picking Horvath?
Yeah.
I think that my little brother becomes our first ever back-to-back champion on the back of what I see as an advantage at tight end and what I see as a small advantage on defense. I just don't think we can expect the same thing. Every other position washes for me, just based on not necessarily head-to-head washes, but what happens at one position is canceled out by another position. And I think Taylor takes this on the back of his very own Cleveland Browns and becomes our first ever back-to-back champion after 17 seasons. It's disgusting. It breaks my heart, but I do think it's going to happen. I'm not going to be mad if either one of these teams wins. They've both been through some shit. Certainly Horvath after what he's dealt with last year with the injuries and everything. So I'm not going to be mad at whoever wins, but I do think it's going to end up being Taylor this time around.
I've never been more confident that my pick is going to be right now.
Now, here's what's interesting. I got to go back here and look real quick. I think we only picked differently 3 times. And so, did I not write down your picks? What the hell am I doing here?
Amateur hour. First, you don't scroll the thing down, then you don't write down my picks.
I swear I was writing them down. Where did I put them? Yeah, I don't know where I was putting your picks, but hold on. Now I have to go back in here and verify all of them, like a fucking idiot. All right, so Mott's versus Phil. I swear I had it in here. You had Phil, I had Phil. Metzger versus Kenny, you had yourself. I had yourself. Eric versus Greg. I don't remember who you picked here.
I put Greg. You took Eric.
That was our difference. Stevie versus Rob P. We
Steve,
both
our
agreed he
eternal
was
loser champion.
Yep. And then me versus Darren, you said I have the hottest week. And Taylor, yep. We only have 2 differences this week. So you are going to be the champion. Darren, when you watch this episode, shoot us a text. Let us know how you did this season. Dan finished with 67 wins. Current draft order, guys, is as of now, and obviously there's going to be a lottery to determine the first 3 picks later. Kenny, Rob P, Eric, Stevie, Rob Motz, Dan, Phil, Greg, Terry, and JR. The rest of the order will be determined this week, and then we will schedule some time, probably, I would say expect it early February for us to do the draft lottery. It could be before that, but I wouldn't bet on it. Dan, any parting words for what is technically the final show of the 2023 MFL season?
Love you guys. Great year. Hope Horvath wins.
I love you guys too. I have nothing mean to say to anybody, not even you, Darren. If you take 3rd place from me, I guess you get me a better. Technically, I should want to lose this matchup because I don't have my own 1. So this gets me a better 2. But I also want to be 3rd place 3 consecutive years in a row. There's something to that. So I love you guys as well. This was a really fun season. Obviously, there were some hiccups along the way, but I think the draft lottery brought some new life to the league. And as always, we are looking at different rule changes. Any suggestions, make sure you guys drop them and I will put them to a vote. We will be switching to Fab waiver next year, waiver bidding next year. So Taylor, with your no draft picks, shit's about to get real ugly for you. I will not expect back, my friend. Everybody, have a wonderful weekend. I hope you had a great Christmas. I hope you guys all have a wonderful and safe new year. Good luck this week to Taylor and Horvath, and we'll see how it goes and get you guys some money. Have a good day.